and shock from the aunt of this man, 47-year-old Roy Torres.
Just so we can't believe it.
She didn't want us to show her face on camera, but she tells us Torres was shot dead by his 26-year-old cousin, the known gang member and recent parolee who also killed Whittier police officer Keith Boyer hours later. The sheriff's department was called to City Terrace around 5:30 Monday morning, where they found Torres shot to death in his garage.
The person that killed him happened to be his cousin from his dad's side.
Another family member who also did not want to be identified alleges the suspect they call Mikey stole Torres' car after the shooting and says they helped police identify him after seeing news reports.
Once we saw the vehicle, we knew that was our family member's vehicle, and we told the cops that this is the link to find the murderer.
The family says the two men were close.
I know that he was close to this cousin. I don't know if it was through good intentions or bad intentions they were close, but I know that he was around my family member a lot.
He was very kind and sweet, very understanding, always giving. Here, and you need something, or when somebody's birthday, he would go and out of his way.
As for the motive, do you have any idea why these two cousins, one would want to kill the cousin?
I don't know. They said something about a girlfriend. I don't know.
And police are not releasing the identity of the suspect. We do know that he is expected to survive, as is Officer Patrick Hazel. He is expected to survive as well. He is a 3-year member of Whittier PD. He was taken here to UCI in stable condition in the intensive care unit. We're live in the city of Orange. Stephanie Stanton.
A lot of anger tonight after it was revealed that the suspect, a well-known gang member, was released early from jail. CBS 2's Rachel Kim continues our team coverage live in Whittier. Rachel?
Well, Rick, authorities say the 26-year-old suspect has been in and out of jail. Hours after the murder, Whittier's police chief stood in front of his department here and said that Officer Boyer's death is a good example of why early release is dangerous to the community and to law enforcement.
A very solemn feeling here in Whittier, so stricken with sadness.
By Monday night, the people on the streets of Whittier had all heard about the murder of Officer Keith Boyer. Authorities say his unnamed killer is a 26-year-old hardcore gang member who was released early from jail and was out on parole for robbery. Whittier's police chief said Boyer's murder shows how California's new laws meant to reduce incarcerations have made the streets less safe.
We need to pull our head out of the sand and start realizing what we're doing to our communities and to our officers who give their life like Officer Boyer did today.
LA County Sheriff Jim McDonald described the early release laws voters recently passed.
AB 109 basically changed where they do their time. So the people who were previously in county jail are now out on the streets.
At this point, authorities aren't sure which allowed the suspect to be released early, but they say he has a long rap sheet and was released on parole within the last 2 weeks. These law enforcement leaders say early release is putting the community and officers in danger.
So they get kicked out early, aren't really given a chance to rehabilitate while they're in jail.
We asked people in Whittier what they think.
I don't feel like it's working. There's just more crime out there.
Rehabilitation, how do you measure that?
I truly don't believe that some people want all change.
Authorities aren't releasing the suspect's name because of the ongoing investigation. They say they will talk to his probation officer tomorrow to find out exactly why he was released early. Back to you.
To the family, this is your family as well, and it always will be.
The family of Whittier police officer Keith Boyer wiped away tears as the police chief did the same.
You don't know how hard this is.
Thousands of people crowded the front lawn of the police department for a prayer vigil.
We light this candle for Officer Boyer, for his family, for Officer Hazel, and for the men, the women of the Whittier Police Department. God bless you and God bless them.
Those who knew Officer Boyer were here, and plenty of others who didn't. His brethren from other police agencies came to lay flowers and pay their respects and offer support. They were also there to salute him as his body was transported from UC Irvine. Monday morning, Officer Boyer was responding to a traffic accident, a routine call, until the man in the silver car opened fire, a gang member and recent parolee. Unknown to the officers, the suspect was in a stolen car and was running from a murder in East Los Angeles. He got hit along with another officer, Patrick Hazel. Both are expected to survive.
Patrick Hazel, God bless you. I went saw him at the hospital. He's going to recover.
The grief, though, is overwhelming in the department and community. The chief called him the best of the best. One of his former partners agreed.
A great man. Never complain, no matter what you told him to do.
Adding to the sadness, the fact that Boyer was thinking about retiring from the force and do more of what he loved, enjoy his family, and play the drums.
I think he wanted to play music full time. Yeah, he would love nothing better than to do that. So, and we played in a band together, short-lived, but I think that's what he would have loved to have done.
It seems music is a big part of the Whittier Police Department. Not only that former officer, Michael, but also the police chief said that he had played in a band with Officer Boyer. In fact, the chief kind of mused while he was up on that stage for the prayer vigil that if he could hear Keith speak to him at this point, he would probably say, "It's time to stop talking, Chief, and go write a song." And that's what the chief plans to do. Reporting live in Whittier, Susan Hirosuna, Fox.
In the murder trial of Michael Christopher Mejia, his crime spree happened 4 years ago in East LA. Mejia killed a family member, then opened fire on 2 Whittier police officers. Officer Keith Boyer was killed, his partner wounded. It took a jury just 2 hours to convict Mejia of 2 counts of first-degree murder, a count of attempted murder, and carjacking.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Appreciate you guys checking out today's video. Hope y'all had a good Memorial Day. For those of y'all that had the paid vacation and had 4 days off, lucky. Never had a job like that. But hope we did some camping or spent time with family. I barbecued. Me and my girl and my parents, we barbecued on Sunday, so that was cool. The older I get, the more the little things matter, you know, and like, I can't even remember the last time I did barbecue on Memorial Day. You know, I if you guys have heard me before on this channel, I've got a little over 4 years sober. And when I was in the streets, when I was doing my thing, man, I only cared about number one, man. I only cared about myself. And if you couldn't help me get to what I was trying to do that day, which was honestly just lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, to get my fix, to get well. And if you've ever struggled with an opiate addiction, know exactly what I'm talking about when I say get well. It is a living hell, a living nightmare. So, anyway, I don't want to ramble too much. What I'm saying is I appreciate the little things now. The barbecue, sitting down to eat. It's very nice. And then making these videos. You know, I got some good feedback on the last one. It was awesome. It means a lot. You know, the channel's growing. Be at about 10,000 subscribers, hopefully here in probably a couple months, 45 days-ish. One thing I was thinking about, and I would really love feedback, please leave feedback in the comments, guys. I love it. I love engaging with you guys. The last video, I got a lot of engagement. It's cool, man. I love asking these questions because this is still new to me, guys. Okay, I've only been doing this for about 8-9 months, so it's still kind of new to me thinking that I'm kind of doing this now. What I was going to say is I want to do some merch. I think it'd be a good idea. If I'm tripping, tell me. You know, I got Greenlit Gang TV. That's the name of the channel. So I'm thinking of hoodies, shirts, pants. You know, I don't know. Send me some ideas. Talk to me. Let me know. Yeah, just let me know. Let me know what you guys think. So anyway, today we're going to be covering a gang member. We're going to be covering the murder of a police officer. We're also going to be covering, this is in California, by the way, and to be exact, Whittier, California, which is a southern city in Los Angeles with some unincorporated areas around it, okay? We're going to be covering the 2017 murder of Officer Keith Boyer, 53-year-old Officer Keith Boyer, who was a 27-year veteran. Also, Officer Patrick Hazel was wounded in that. And from what I read, he never actually went back to work. He never was a cop again. And this all happened at the hands of 25 to 26-year-old, depending on if you talk about when he actually committed the murder. 25, when he was in court for everything, he was 26. Michael Christopher Mejia, a member of the Winter Garden Gangs, which is a Sureno set. And I really wanted to read about, because honestly, right away, I couldn't see what gang Christopher Michael Mejia was from. Michael Christopher Mejia was from. I wasn't able to tell. I kind of feel like the more I do these videos, the better I can spot, especially with Norteños and Sureños. I can kind of see with the tattoos right away. And I honestly, no joke, you're going to say, yeah, whatever. I had guessed that he was a Sureno, but I wanted to verify it. Obviously, on this, I try to be as accurate as I can. And it's just one of those things that's, important. So Winter Gardens basically is the gang Mejia claims. They are Southsiders. And from what I read on their territory, and if you guys are from this area, know California at all, it runs from Olympic and the 710th, and then Atlantic and Ferris. And like I said, there's the city of Whittier, California, but a bunch of unincorporated areas around it. Now, when I looked up East LA, East Los Angeles gang, it's important to understand there's another, there's a lot of gangs, obviously, but Maravelas, there's sets of Maravelas gangs and groups like that. They do not get along from my readings. Okay, they do not get along at all. So Michael Christopher Mejia is a lifelong criminal, and only being about in his mid to late 20s, he had been in trouble a lot. So what I was going to say is we're going to be talking about, obviously, the death of Officer Keith Boyer, but we're also going to be talking about California's penal system and how, I don't know if you guys follow the news at all, California is very, very liberal. And a lot of people are leaving California because it's kind of becoming a free-for-all. And again, please comment below if you live there. I would love to hear back and love to hear how things have changed, maybe for good or bad. I'm not saying, like I said, on a lot of stuff, I try to remain out of it. I was actually in LA at the beginning of this year. Me and my girl went and visited. I had a good time. I had a nice time. We saw a lot. We were in Los Angeles. But, just from reading and hearing from people, I have family and friends that live down there. It's changed. It's changed quite a bit. So, in 2017, defendant 25-year-old Michael Christopher Mejia, a member of the Winter Gardens gang, shot and killed first his cousin, Roy Torres. He took the cousin's car and ended up in a traffic collision. Now, interestingly enough, that person that he was in a traffic collision with actually testified at the trial and said he was polite. He was trying to get the car out of the way to keep going. Mejia was a known methamphetamine user, drug user. I'm going to be honest. When I see pictures of him, they say a lot of things are in the eyes. He looks mentally unwell to me. And some would say, well, he's loaded in his mugshot. But I'm talking about after he's been months in jail. And I know there's a ton of drugs in the jails, a ton of drugs in the prisons. It's probably easier to get him in there almost than it is on the streets. But to me, he looks like someone who was a drug abuser for a long time. And he's also suffered some mental issues from that. And long-term methamphetamine use can cause that. Like I said, I was in the streets for a long time using. I have a lot of friends and people I haven't seen in quite a long time now that I've been sober for 4 years. But I know that look. I remember being in detox. I remember being in jails. I remember being in treatment centers. And that meth, man, it eats away at you. It's a real dirty drug. If you talk to people that are in recovery or talk to people that are in the streets, meth is a really, really dirty drug. But it's often used. It's cheap. It's easy to get. And so that's kind of my take on it. So basically what happened is, okay, a gentleman by the name, and I said Roy Torres, who is Mejia's second cousin once removed or something. He lived in his aunt's converted garage with his girlfriend, Victoria Pineda. Mejia is obviously friends with his cousin and their family. They hang out. They've known each other for a long time. Roy Torres owned a silver Dodge Stratus. And on the evening of February 19th, 2017, Mejia comes over. Well, Victoria Pineda and her cousin had planned a night out on the town and left in Torres' car. Torres stayed home. Roy Torres stayed home. So he's staying in his aunt's garage, which is converted into an apartment. After about two hours, Roy's like, hey, man, I want my car back. Begins texting his girl, hey, you got to get back. He needed the car back. Well, she doesn't come home right away, right? She's out with her friends. She's having a good time. She's probably like, Roy's up my ass about getting this thing back, whatever. But she does come back. Pineda eventually returned home. She parks on the street in front of the garage. Pineda and her cousin walk in the garage. They see Torres and Michael Christopher Mejia kind of going back and forth, right? Not arguing. But Victoria would testify that the mood, and when she would give interviews, she said that the mood was awkward. Something was off. Mejia was repeating himself, telling Torres, you chose the other side. You chose the other side. And he takes off his shirt. There's a gun tucked into his waistband. And at that point, Victoria, Roy Torres' girlfriend, said she knew something was up. And I kind of want to, if you guys have ever been in something like this, I've never been in something like this exact situation, but I've been in uncomfortable situations where you're beginning, the more the addiction takes over, and I've never been in a gang, but I feel like gang members can speak to this. You begin to normalize things and situations in your brain. And you begin hanging around people that maybe 5 years prior you said, man, I would never do that. And not just hanging around, but doing things, acting a certain way, taking more risk is kind of what I'm getting at, right? And it only takes one thing to go wrong, man. It only takes one situation. You see something like this. Roy Torres didn't think he was going to die that night. He's hanging out in his apartment at his aunt's house. Just wants his car back from his girl. His cousin, who obviously the family knew had issues and had struggled with substance use for years. But I guarantee you he never thought that would come of that. So like I said, Victoria knows something is up. By this time, it's the early morning on February 20th, 2017. Defendant Mejia told Pineda and her cousin to leave. But Victoria goes, I'm not leaving anywhere. She's not leaving her boyfriend by himself. And then Torres began to look worried. He began to look scared. Because you can imagine, right? Mejia's probably been using drugs. He's been up all night. Now he tells him to leave. No witnesses. Let two men handle this. He's got a gun. Then Michael Christopher Mejia goes, well, let's all take a shot of liquor. Before he even did that, takes out the gun and he points it at Torres' head and began counting down from 10. Didn't make it very far because it says on the count of 8, he shot him. Defendant turned to Pineda and told her to give him the car keys. Victoria, seeing her boyfriend dead, laying there, obviously freaking out, feeling like she had no choice. Victoria gives him the keys. Mejia takes off. Obviously, Victoria calls 911. Or it says actually that her cousin called 911. I'm sure she's probably tending to her boyfriend. When officers get there, they see Victoria and the cousin crying, very upset. There was a used shell casing on the couch. Roy is laying there dead with a gunshot wound to the right eye. He was later pronounced dead. And just to give you an idea where they were at, if you guys are from this area, it says Torres was shot in the 1400 block, in the 1400 block of Volney Drive in East LA around 5:30 a.m. So remember, it starts in February 19th. Now we're into February 20th. Several hours pass while driving his cousin, who he killed. He's driving that silver Dodge Stratus. He's high. He's been up. Depending on how many days he's been up, he could be hallucinating, but I guarantee you paranoia is at an all-time high. Paranoia, the fact he knows what he just did, things are progressing very fast at that point. He collides with another vehicle at a stoplight. Police officers Patrick Hazel and Keith Boyer responded to the accident. Hazel ran the Dodge driver's license plate and discovered it had been reported stolen, because remember, the girls called it in. Then Officer Keith Boyer attempts to arrest Michael Christopher Mejia. Well, Mejia makes a sudden move, and he begins shooting. Shoots Patrick Hazel in the abdomen. He begins to then shoot it out with Officer Keith Boyer, and he ends up shooting and killing Boyer. Boyer did hit him. He did shoot Michael Christopher Mejia, but it wasn't enough. Michael Christopher Mejia won that particular gun battle. Now, we're going to get into this and kind of why I want you guys to... I'm laying this out, okay, because it just kind of gives you an idea. And again, I don't like to take sides on this. I see where police overstep their bounds. I see where members of the public are afraid of police because of their race, because of maybe who their family members are, because maybe they're an associate of a gang, right? Everybody has rights. You are never, ever should be put in a position where your rights are taken away. But I also see from the police point of view where you don't know what you're getting into. When these officers walked up to him, they had no idea that they have a guy that just killed his cousin. He's high. He's been up for hours. He's got nothing to lose. He's in a stolen car. Okay, all they see is a stolen car. That's it. They don't know, because when they run the plates, it's going to come back to Roy Torres. So they don't know who's in the car. So when they do contact Mejia, they asked him to get out of the vehicle, and they were going to put him down to check for weapons. As he exited the car, the suspect brandished a handgun and shot at the officer, who returned fire. It was unknown how many shots were fired during the Chaos Range gun battle. And then, like I said, there were 3 witnesses that saw the shooting happen. One was like a tow truck driver. One was the person that got in the accident. And there was another person. Apparently it was less than 3 hours. So it was about 2 to 3 hours had passed. Okay? And Keith Boyer was a 27-year veteran, and who actually had been talking about retiring. And when you watch the news stories, it talks about his love of music. Said that particular police department all loved music. And Police Chief Jeff Piper had called him one of the best of the best. And, pretty soon information starts trickling out, right? This happens in February 17. It came out that Mejia had been released from Pelican Bay the prior April. He'd been out less than a year. So he's on parole. I'm trying to word this right. He's on parole, but he'd been released to the supervision of the county probation department in April, of 2016. That's when he got out, the previous April, now in February 2017. So kind of going back in time to what he did, okay? So now all of a sudden the newspapers are picking this up. So according to the LA Times, Mejia was sentenced to 4 years in state prison in 2010 for robbery, another 2-year sentence in 2014 on charges including grand theft auto. LA County jail records show 6 arrests for Michael Christopher Mejia since July 2016, including Mondays, and 2 others this year. He was last arrested. So this happens. He shoots his cousin the 19th of February, 2017. Shoots the officers February 20th, 2017. He had been arrested February 2nd, of 2017. His second of the year. So he was an active gang member. And that's what the thing you got to remember, man. If you guys are active, these guys do not stop. They leave the prisons. They leave Pelican Bay with marching orders. They know what they're going to do. They know what they're about. They got respect. And unfortunately, a crime like this, a killing of a police officer, that's looked at as, hey, man, he handled his business. Now he's going to have even more respect. And you can see in the courtroom photos, man, he knows he's being watched. He knows it's a high-profile case. He's making faces, sticking his tongue out. So these other arrests, though, weren't for anything like he wasn't out committing a robbery, right? So a lot of you might be like, well, geez, he was arrested, what? And then a week later, rearrest. These are called violations, guys. So when you're on parole, when you're on probation, when you're on some sort of supervised release, and again, throw in the comments, guys. Tell me your story if you've been on this, okay? Let me know your experience. Let me know what California is like, or whatever state you're from, whatever country you're from. I would love to hear their release conditions and their probation conditions. This story got a lot of headlines because people were basically saying California was way too lax. And this guy, Mejia, was a prime example of that. He kept getting chances. He kept getting arrested, kept violating his terms of release. He was served a 10-day sentence. Then he was released again. And it's like it says, this was unbeknownst to the Whittier police officers when they pull over the car. They have a murder suspect in a stolen car. All they know is the car's stolen. They don't know who's in the car, right? So a lot of people are like, why is he even out on the streets? Why is he even free? Okay? So, when stuff like this happens, heads are going to roll. Okay? The next day, the Board of Supervisors directed by the county and the higher-ups, they examined how the probation officials had supervised Mejia. So it's like, God, could you imagine being his probation officer and he does that? I mean, I'm telling you, man. And I feel for the probation officer, man. I mean, there's only so much you can do. There's laws, there's things you can't, and California is one of those states that encourages rehabilitation over punishment. And there's a fine line, okay? You've got to have rehabilitation. Absolutely. I'm talking to you guys as a recovering addict. Without the rehabilitation programs, without giving second, third, fourth chances, I would not be where I'm at today. You best believe it, right? I was at the low of the low, and I was able to get my life back because I was given chances. So I'm definitely an advocate for that. But if you've got an individual who's an active gang member who's thumbing his nose to authority, who does not care, a 10-day violation for someone like Mejia, you're going to go get cleaned up, dry out. They call it dry out, right? Get the drugs out of your system, clean up, get some food in your belly, see your homies, see your friends, see your families, and go right back out. It ain't nothing, man. 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, those are typical times for violating, okay? So, they look at Mejia's probation officer, and the findings were after they conducted their whole investigation, after they conduct everything, right? They find that Mejia's probation officer used an excessive number of short jail stints. So basically, he just kept giving him 10 days. He wasn't putting him in for 30, wasn't revoking him and sending him back to prison. There wasn't anything doing it aimed to stop his bad behavior. They're saying that his supervision should have been revoked and sent him to jail for a lot longer. Mejia, who had a history of drug abuse, and this is what I was talking about, should have been referred to a substance abuse treatment screening as soon as he was released from prison. But the county waited until he admitted using heroin and requested help. So this is the first time I read this. I didn't know he was also using heroin. So he had a serious issue. Even then, though, the county waited 2 weeks before getting him an initial drug treatment screening, which he didn't show up to, right? He doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to go to treatment. It's an option. They provide it for you. When probation did finally decide to get tough, an officer recommended Mejia spend 3 months in jail, followed by court-ordered residential drug treatment, but the prosecutor handling the case did not include the probation officer in plea negotiations, so the prosecutor was unaware of the extent of Mejia's escalating drug use. They said they asked the judge to just send him to jail for a month. So, there it is, right? Right there, guys, and this is something that I've been through, okay? They want to send you to treatment. And I remember, for me, I wanted to go to treatment. I needed to go to treatment. I knew, you have to find the right things that work for you, okay? Some people it's AA. Some people it's medication-assisted treatment for opiate use, right? Suboxone, methadone, Vivitrol shots. Some people it's just getting the heck out of town, moving away, finding your higher power. Whatever works for you. I hate people that judge people on how they got sober, how they clean it. And forget just being sober. Maybe you're in a gang. Maybe you walked away from the gang because you have kids, because you have people that you love. And any positive change. I'm not just talking about drug recovery. I'm talking about anything. Whatever works for you works if you're doing it the right way. So, Mejia then, this thing winds its way for the court for a few years. He goes to trial. He did not testify. A jury convicts him of all counts, found the allegations true. Defendant obviously admitted to the prior convictions. He was sentenced to 2 terms of life without the possibility of parole, plus a consecutive indeterminate term of 115 years to life and a consecutive determinate term of 34 years, 4 months. Now, I'm going to read you guys this because I found it so interesting. This is how they get people on gang enhancements, your prior convictions. They did basically, when the punishment phase rolled around, they put this guy under the jail practically, but it came too late when you had all these chances to help him. Or when the help didn't work and he didn't want the help, You had a chance to lock him up longer, and you didn't do it. So I read the sentencing, and it's crazy, man. So if you're a gang member, listen to this, because they will enhance the hell out of you and make it so hard for you to get out. So sentenced to consecutive terms, life without the possibility of parole, plus 30 years to life, 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement, plus 5 years for having for committing a serious felony and having a prior felony. That's just on count 1. For count 2, the court imposed 55 years to life, 30 years for the substantive offense, 15 years to life, doubled for the prior strike, plus 20 years for the firearm enhancement, and an additional 5 years for the serious prior felony. For the determinate sentence, the court selected count 4 as the base count and imposed an aggregate term of 33 years, 18 years for the substantive charge, the upper term of 9 years, doubled for the prior strike, 10 years for the firearm enhancement, and 5 years for the serious felony prior. The court imposed 1 year, 4 months for count 5, and 1/3 the midterm doubled for the prior strike. So he got doubled and tripled up on everything. I mean, to be honest, I probably could have just read you the first line when he got life, double life, plus 114, but I'm giving you an idea, man, of just what it can be. And I know I talked a little more about addiction in this, but man, if you guys are struggling out there, if you guys, are caught up in whatever, whether you're in a gang, not in a gang, addicted to drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, man, just I'm not even telling you what to do. Who am I? I can't speak on an exact gang. I can't speak on gang life. I was never in a gang. I can speak on drug addiction, and I can tell you it's no way to live. It's going to leave you broke, depressed, emotionally vacant, and alone, and either dead or in jail. Get the help, man. Get the help. Like I said, Winter Gardens is a Sureno set. Claim Southsiders. Just a sad case, man. Family killing family. A 27-year police officer who wanted to retire and play music died. Another officer that was shot, never went back. Yeah, it's just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things that sad to see it happen the way it did. And then this brought about a lot of people that were mad. They were mad at the California prison system because they said, man, you guys had a chance to lock this guy up, and you didn't. So anyway, there you guys have it. Another video. Love bringing you guys the content. I'm going to get right to work on the next one here today or tomorrow. Until next time, peace.